Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Light Queen Lisa, and we have another opportunity to enlighten ourselves, grow our minds. Dr. McDaniel is with us today, and he will be teaching us oxidative free radical principle. So get your notepads out, get your pencil ready, sharpen it up, and be right back right after this. Welcome, Dr. McDaniel. Good to have you here. And I know it's been a little while, but I'm excited to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And as I said, our topic today, if you read about how to improve public speaking or before people, they would tell you to never apologize. Well, I'm not going to apologize, but I'm going to say that I'm afraid today's topic is a little over my head. And so I want to admit that. But in the area of dietary supplements and in nutrition, there's a lot of throwing around with the words free radicals and oxidation. And I got to tell you, I've never met a free radical that they're talking about. I've met some radicals, but not these molecular free radicals. And oxidation is a little difficult for some to get their mind around. But I hold in my hand 2 bar magnets. And when I was a kid, they had these bar magnets with a little black and white Scotty dog on them, and we played with them. And maybe you did that, or at least we could refer to this, that as you ding these bar magnets toward each other, all of a sudden you can hear it click as it's attracted. And then you can turn it around and you can feel something between them. You can't see anything, but it pushes away. And this is a point that I bring out because this is going on in the fluids of our body, in the cells between the molecules. And that I'll give an example. Here on the table are a bunch of colored, maybe you can see them.
Yeah, if you hold it in front of yourself.
Paper clips. And they're all stuck to it. And you can pull them back and forth. And what I wanted to point out is that all these little colored paper slips, that in the fluids of our body, the serum, that these molecules either are attracted and bind to, just like they are to these magnets, between molecules that carry on the metabolism in the cells, every cell, and also in the nutrients that are in the fluid. And this is attraction that is going on between molecules that you need to recognize. Also, I will never forget one of the first experiments in chemistry they showed us. They had a container of water, H2O, 2 hydrogens and oxygen, and they put a electrode that was positive and one that was negative, kind of like this. Can't be seeing this fill here, into each end of it, and then they put a burette over the right above the electrodes, and they collected at the positive pole the negative hydrogen ions, and at the oxygen pole, which is positive, the negative pole that put oxygen inside the tube that was above it. And you could go over and prove this by or putting a match or something at the end of it, and hydrogen will burn. But you know, you can take water and it extinguishes a flame. And yet here is this hydrogen molecule and oxygen, which are positive and negative, just like these magnets here. And when they're together, you got water. But when you separate them with a charge, it's positive and negative, you get the oxygen on one end and the hydrogen at the other end, and they have totally different properties.
Okay. That makes so much sense to me. I have wondered, they killed the guy that created the hydrogen engine And I always wondered, like, how does a hydrogen engine, because I just know combustion, and then now we're seeing all these electric cars, and now the electric car companies are shutting down. We've seen Toyota and Honda have shut down theirs. GM has now shut down their future production and turning away from these EV models. And so I was wondering what the science was behind the hydrogen model. But with magnets, you can pull the oxygen, what did you say? I'm sorry. The water away, the oxygen away, and the hydrogen is left, and then the hydrogen is combustible.
Right.
Okay.
If you stop
Wow.
just a minute and think, there's more water on Earth than just about anything. Look at the
Wow.
Pacific Ocean and how the continents are such a small part of when you have the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. If we could somehow harness this hydrogen that's in that water and use it as a fuel,
Yep.
not only for automobiles and to generate electricity, that it's endless amount of
Free energy.
source of energy, and it doesn't produce toxic gases
Right.
in the atmosphere that we are told that burning natural gas or either petroleum is doing. And that's a controversial subject that I won't get into.
Which shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's
Yeah,
crazy that that's a controversial subject,
yeah.
but yeah,
But
when the dollar's involved,
I look at the science that they gather on it and say this is one of the biggest hoaxes that
Mm.
I've encountered in my lifetime. That we should be shutting down the oil fields and gas fields because of this philosophy of going green.
Yeah.
So, with this as a thing of pointing out that there's something going on between these magnets
Right.
of attraction and rejection, that this is going on between the molecules. And just as this yellow paper clip and this orange one attach to this, or it's retarded with other, this is going on between the molecules that are nutrients and the metabolism that's going on in cells. And with that, we'll get into the first slide.
Right. Absolutely.
Well,
Mm.
here we have a bar magnet, like I was pointing out, that there, though you can't see it, there is a field of magnetism around it, and that you can take an electric motor and the coils around it produces an electromagnet, and it has poles on it. And this was used by Tesla to use that force we were talking about, pushing to keep it going in such a way with the way he made the shaft in a motor that you keep that pushing to make the motor go around. And this is something that's in our environment, and we use it all the time. But I don't think we realize that some of this uh, attraction and rejection is going on right inside the serum and in our cells, and part of why they work. Let's go to the next slide.
Mhm.
Now, the Earth has a magnetic field, and if you doubt it, that's how they say that birds can navigate, and birds and salmon and whales and even butterflies are sensitive to this Earth magnetic field, and they can tell where they're going and how far and what for. But you and I are pretty affected by this unless we get in a jet airplane. And they tell me, and I experienced it, if you fly to Frankfurt, Germany through the night, you get up and for 1 to maybe 3 days, you feel kind of confused. And they say this is a travel thing about changing across the magnetic fields of the different continents and areas on the globe. So we're not totally uninfected by magnetic fields. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Now, this is a chart of all the elements that make up substances that have been found in space and everywhere on Earth. And one of the interesting things about this is that everything that makes up our body, these elements are in this chart, but when they're separate elements, they have absolutely no properties of life. But there's a code in the genes, the 46 chromosomes that are in every cell in our body, that work with a little assembly line that's in every cell. You can take these elements and hook them together in such a manner that, eureka, we have life. And that every one of these elements has a central area called the nucleus, and electrons rotating around it. And the simplest one is the hydrogen at the top at the left, where it's only one electron. And when you get down to the other things, you have multiple electrons around. But every one of these has a magnetic field, just like the Earth. And there is power in here. And if you doubt there's power in here, every time on television you see an atomic bomb go off, you see a group, one of these higher molecular weight elements on here, that all of a sudden it's converted to energy. And that's what's is released with an atomic bomb. So there is, these elements have a positive and a negative pole on them. And so we are a creature that is organized around energy, and these magnetic power or attractions and rejections make up our body. Let's go to the next slide. Now, the ability to talk about these areas of these things that you can't see, they're so small that every element has the central area, like we see here a proton or a neutron, and then it has electrons circulating around it. And you can see there lithium and fluorine and aluminum, they have more of these structures in them. And the electrons are negatively charged, and the central area is positively charged, just like those bar magnets I showed you. And we're trying to slowly move into this idea of free radicals and oxidation, which we hope we'll get there, but we got to have some knowledge of what we're looking at now. But this is the model that Dr. Bohr worked out to understand all those little squares in the composition of matter as we add more and more energy and more electrons to the various elements. Next slide.
And the number of electrons always equals the number of protons plus neutrons. Is that correct?
They got to be in
They have
balance.
to be in balance. Okay.
And in fact, when I was in pathology residency, the balance is stability of each one of these little squares. And to try to identify them, you can actually take an electron microscopy, a thing, and increase the energy level to it, which makes it unstable, and it will give off that energy as light, and it's in a profile such that you can tell what the element is by a computer that analyzes the light that it gives off, is giving the energy off to get back to a stable state. And that's a little beyond this.
Yeah,
but
that's
I don't mention it because I don't understand it all, but I was involved in doing it. And this stuff we're talking about is real.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more complex than a little plastic Scotty dog, that black and white, or bar magnet. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Now, this charged particle principle is very important because, for example, in World War I, one of the toxic gases that were used in trench warfare was chlorine gas. And this is very toxic if you breathe it in. But another thing is that I never will forget, in the laboratory, someone took some sodium and put it into a drain, and somebody ran some water and it exploded up to the ceiling. Well, you take sodium and chloride and you hook them together because the sodium is positive and the chlorine gas is negative, and you get salt and sodium chloride. And this sodium chloride is essential for life. It's one of the important molecules that's in serum. And this is very important about this positive and negative
Balance.
attracting each other,
Mm-hmm.
because it really changes the properties of the elements. Also, another very important compound that's in the serum is sodium chloride. And that chlorine glass is hooked to potassium, and instead of NaCl, you have KCl, and the potassium is primarily inside the cell membrane, and the sodium is primarily in the serum that circulates around the cells. And this going back and forth carries on the ability to contract our muscles in our arms,
Mm-hmm.
as this is moving back and forth across the membrane of cells. So this controls movement of water in and out of the cell, and hydration is essential for good health. And you got to have electrolytes, which the sodium and the potassium chlorides are important portions. And nearly everybody, when you go in the hospital, they will draw some of your blood and they'll check it with flame photometry to make sure you got enough sodium and enough potassium. In fact, if you don't have enough potassium, your heart can't contract. And so that's part of the process of contraction of your heart, 60 to maybe 75 at normal existence, that the heart contracts to run the blood around the body and to carry oxygen to all the cells and carry nutrients. And away from the cells, it brings waste products that run through the kidney. And again, these electrons get involved in the kidney, and those that you need to get rid of run into the water of the urine, and you get it out of your body to get rid of waste products. Next slide, please. Now, our atmosphere in most places is about 21% oxygen, and oxygen is very reactive. And this oxygen, particularly combined with a little bit of water or moisture, can take iron, or, well, better, let's say the iron that is the symbol for it, and it's one of the squares that was on that composition of matter. It has two positive charges, and it combines with the oxygen, and it becomes ferrous from the ferric state, because the ions of the oxygen, which is reacts with the iron, makes rust. And as you well know, rust is not as strong as steel. And it's this reaction of the oxygen with this, which is extremely important, and it goes on in our cells in our body, which we'll eventually get to. And in our body, it's more like something else that you're familiar with, I think you can relate to, is that the oils of liquids will react with oxygen, and it becomes rancid. And nearly everyone knows about rancid peanut butter or rancid cow butter, whereas the oxygen has reacted with the oil in the butter, peanuts, and
Mm-hmm.
the oil that's in the milk.
The fat part, because my husband started doing clarified butter, so he boils the butter to get the animal fat, or the milk protein out, I guess, and then he can leave it on the counter as clarified butter and it doesn't go bad.
Yeah. Well, that's oxidation of iron, and it's oxidation of oils.
Okay.
And this type of, here we are breathing in 21% oxygen, and down at the cell level, I'm going to show you a very interesting thing about the provision in the life process and in the code of DNA to handle this oxidative activity that keeps it from, here we're talking about the oxygen binding to the iron and the oxygen binding to the oil, to keep the oxygen from binding to the membrane structures and to DNA, because the molecules in these structures determines their function. And in DNA, the information that's coded in DNA. So our body fluids react with oxygen. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Now, in the cell, it has every cell of other organ. Now, they're in different shapes and they have different genes that are turned on. For example, they're the same genes are present in the liver and the kidney, but different ones are turned on. We're told that there's about 30,000 genes. Well, in different organs, they have different shapes and different functions because different genes are turned on. But in every cell, it doesn't matter which organ, there are energy producing little structures called mitochondria. And mitochondria take carbohydrate, primarily glucose, which is made of carbon chain in the middle with hydrogen ions around it and oxygen, and it generates adenosine triphosphate and conveys the energy that's in the oxygen in the glucose molecule to the phosphate bonds, which are three positive charges in the ATP, which runs all the metabolism. And when you move your muscles, when I think and try to recall what this slide means, I'm using ATP. And when you listen and your brain functions, the neuron network is using ATP to even comprehend or understand what we're talking about. And one of the things about these little mitochondria is that they're much like your heater system in your house, or your hot water heater. They in the house, they rust out. Well, because there is this oxidative process that the iron in them, particularly with the moisture in the air in your central heating unit and your oxygen in the air in the hot water heater, rusts them out, and you have to replace them. Well, our cells have a very interesting thing that around every mitochondria, there's a little cloud of what is called glutathione or superoxide dismutase, that the program is in the genes to take various molecules on that chart that we showed you,
yes,
to make these compounds that, like I did with the bar magnet, that the glutathione and superoxide dismutase grab the oxygen molecules that are split apart, or any loose ion that it's produced, that if it's either a positive or negative charge, it will attach to membranes in the cell around the ribosomes, these structures you see there, the Golgi that are inside the cell. And worst of all, they can even attach to the DNA and change the information that is in the chain of DNA if they're allowed to attach to it, like these colored paper clips that I've got with the magnet. But glutathione and superoxide dismutase binds and activates these free radicals that are produced, and these free oxygen molecules, so that they don't attach to and modify or alter the function of the membranes in the cell, and particularly you don't want the mitochondria to produce free radicals or oxygen that will have charges that will attach to the DNA chains or the nucleic acid chains of the genes, because that's called mutation, and the worst kind of mutation ends up in malignancy. That the common name for this is cancer. And I think when I look at this, I always think, how in the world did this come to be? That such intricate design and engineering is present in every cell in your body. And they estimate there's up to approximately 30 million types of different cells in the body, that every one of them have this going on automatically. You've been doing this since you were in your mother's womb,
Mm-hmm.
and it all works. And this is a, a a activity inside the cell to keep these free radicals and these oxidative molecules from attaching to structures in the cell and causing damage. Now, next slide, please.
Okay.
Bounced.
Okay. Oh, I've got it zoomed in. So
This is I show it to show you proof of something. It's a very expensive microscope at Texas A&M, and what we have in here is 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 liver cells in culture. They're all alive, and where you see the N is the nucleus where the genes are. And if you could get closer, you could see that this microscope scans these cells at different wavelengths, and it can detect yellow glutathione and green superoxide dismutase. And everywhere you see this in the cytoplasm, this color, it's right around the mitochondria. It's a little cloud to soak up these free radicals and these oxidative molecules to keep them from attaching to the membranes and the nucleic acids in the cell, because if the free radicals and the reactive oxygen molecules attach to them, it causes damage and we get symptoms. And one of the real frequent things is if you don't sleep and you walk around, you feel probably with a headache and no energy, or if you change like flying to Frankfurt, this gets thrown off, and it takes some time to get back in balance. And as I frequently say, that this is part of the music of the, and I use as example that when I go to the symphony, I can't play an instrument on the stage and I don't read music, but I can appreciate the music. Well, I hope you appreciate the music of the creative and designing power that's present in every one of your cells, and how the cell has been organized and designed to get rid of the potential damage of these positive and negatively charged molecules that the mitochondria produce. And this is just proof that it's there. And this is a very expensive microscope that the computer takes all these frequencies and then superimposes them on each other to give you this image that proves what I'm telling you is a fact. Let's go to the next slide. Now, as you're probably aware that there are 6 carbons in glucose, and where these came from is truly, again, remarkable on planet Earth. That, again, I think you have to ask, how in the world did this come to be? Is that a very narrow band of energy from the sun in the blue-green area strikes chlorophyll, which can absorb this energy from the sun. And lo and behold, this energy with water takes carbon dioxide, which is a carbon plus 2 oxygens, and hooks these carbons together with a bond, then a little bit of the energy from the sun is in each one of these bonds. And that bond between those carbon atoms that came from the carbon dioxide, and this is part of the fallacy of this go green type thing to try to eliminate carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The plants use it,
Right.
make the skeleton structure, this chain of carbons, to make amino acids, to make fatty acids, and to make the monosaccharides or sugars that make up the structure of our body. And the mitochondria are able to go break this bond between each carbon and take that energy and transfer it to the phosphate molecule for adenosine triphosphate, because our body operates like a dry cell, a wet cell battery, because you got to have the serum and water in our diet, because without oxygen breathing in, they say we can only go about 7 to 10 minutes, depending on the temperature, without getting permanent damage, say to the brain. Well, you can only go a few days without water. You'll die from dehydration, though you can go many days without food. So this all critically works together in the cell to produce this management of energy that is present in these molecules, that when they, as I was showing you, like in sodium chloride, that the sodium is explosive and the chloride is a poison, but you hook them together and they're totally changed to salt, which is in the serum and is absolutely essential for our good health and function of our cells. Next slide, please. Well, in summation, that these free radical particles that can be generated by the life processes, that lo and behold, in the genes, superoxide dismutase and glutathione are produced on the assembly line in the cell, that they bind to and quench these free radicals that will do damage. And that's why it's so essential, and it's referred to so much in nutrition and in the dietary supplement industry, because you want molecules for nutrition in your diet that are needed to make glutathione and superoxide dismutase. And I can use an example that the glutathione, which quenches these free radicals, it has 3 amino acids now in its structure, and 2 of them are abundant in our diet. But the third one is called cysteine, and it's a very special amino acid that has a sulfur attached to it, or a sulfur hydryl group, and it's very active in quenching free radicals and all. But we don't eat a lot of foods that have this cysteine in it, because that's what makes the cruciferous vegetables have a bite to them. We don't eat, particularly
That's
in the
all like the
United
Brussels
States.
sprouts, cabbage, that kind of, yeah.
And turnips and radishes.
Mm,
All of them kind of have a little burn. You can't even force a child to eat them.
yeah.
In the New Eden, which is the supplement that I have worked on now for 38 years, we have this cysteine amino acid added to it, because we don't tend to eat cruciferous vegetables, and it's absolutely essential in the assembly line to make glutathione. And in superoxide dismutase, it's interesting that a very uh, low incidence molecule that's primarily in mushrooms, called a complex amino acid, that is used in the synthesis of superoxide dismutase. So it's important to have these nutrient molecules in your diet. And with this in mind, this has helped guide what to put in New Eden to optimize your health. And these superoxide dismutase, which we have here as SOD and GTH for glutathione, seem to be just blind, just like this magnet over here, but they have the charge with them to quench or bind to free radicals and loose oxygen so that it doesn't cause rancidity like in peanut butter or cow butter, and it doesn't allow rusting of structures in the body, kind of like you see when steel and water and oxygen react, and it reduces the strength of the steel bar. So I think that's the
That,
my
that is, yeah.
effort to try to get across to you the importance of these people throwing around these words, free radicals and
Mhm.
oxidation, and to know that lo and behold, in the engineering and design of life, that mechanism is present within the cell to reduce or eliminate this problem. And if it's not done, there's a higher incidence of, for example, malignancies.
Right.
And this is one of the reasons that in dietary guidance, they recommend people to eat a very wide selection of different nutrients, which we have put in New Eden, things that we tend not to eat and are hard to get. And I over and over again point out that when I was a kid in the 1940s, nearly all the grocery stores were owned by a local family, and there were many fruits and vegetables we could only have about 4 to 6 weeks because it was the local growing season that the people could bring them in. However, right now we can go down to the market and there are national chains, and agribusiness makes watermelon, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, melons available year round. How do they do this? Well, they go to the truck farms and they pick them green so that they'll have a shipping life and a shelf life for the commercial production. Well, when you pick them green, that's before the genes in the plant have put the nutrient molecules in it that our cells call for to make these compounds like superoxide dismutase and glutathione to quench these free radicals and oxidative molecules. And so, what is in New Eden and other dietary supplements? Well, you can allow the fruit or vegetable to mature on the plant. And if you were trying to send it to the grocery store, it'd be rotten by the time it got there. But you can rush to the freeze dryer, and under a vacuum and freezing, you can take all the water out and reduce it to a powder. And that's what we have in the bulk powder of dietary supplements and why they are so powerful. And working with the engineering and design of life that is coded in the genes is incredibly more powerful than taking drugs for deviations from normal in our health. I was engaged to go to Europe when they were developing the laws for the European Common Market in Belgium for drugs and for dietary supplements. And one of the things I didn't get to meet with the big conference there, but I met with the English delegation, and I pointed out we need definitions for drugs, dietary supplements that are not based on a commercial political influence of pharma and the medical industry, that we should use science, and that pharmaceutical drugs interfere with the engineering and design of life to suppress symptoms as long as you take the drug. Make you feel better by interfering with the engineering and design of life. And an ideal drug, if you quit taking it, the symptoms come back. However, nutrients are utilized on the assembly line inside of every cell that is controlled by information that is in the genes to hook these elements together to support the engineering and design of life that is coded in the DNA. And we've just given some examples that I have tried to get across of how important this is and how marvelous it is that this potential damage of free radicals and oxygen molecules can cause, that the creative, organizing, and designing power in the universe is put in the code of DNA and then put into the fruits and vegetables, the very molecules called for in this DNA requirements of nutrition that can make these molecules that give us good health. And that's what we have spent these years that I've been focused on, the formulation for New Eden that we make available through this program. So
Thank you so much. Yes.
I hope I've got across and been helpful with talking about something that I can't see. It's so small, and I showed you this attraction and rejection of that was available between
Well, it
these,
makes so much sense.
but you can't see it.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, and it also goes back to another, lesson that we had where you were talking about how important it is when, I think it was one of the ones on weight loss or weight gain or whatever, where your body doesn't get satiated, because it's not getting the right nutrition, and it's kind of the same, or that magnetic pull, push-pull, like, we need this nutrition for our body, for our cells to work properly. And if you don't put the right stuff in, then the bad stuff doesn't get pushed out as well.
Right.
So that's my little takeaway of it.
Well, we're attempting to talk about something that's very technical and in terms that are simple, that hopefully any layperson that hasn't had years of biochemistry and physics and such can comprehend the importance of more comprehensive nutrition
Yeah,
that is available by just adding uh, daily to your diet the nutrients that are in New Eden that this program makes available. And
thank
I've spent now 38 years chasing this despite my medical education. I found out that this is so important that every person on earth can benefit from this knowledge.
absolutely, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. I wanted to share the website really quick. There's a link in the description of this video, where you can, l get more information from the website. You can reach out to Dr. McDaniel, you can email him. You can also, go to the shop and place an order. If you place an order for the, subscription of the once a month, right here, New Eden nutritional support monthly subscription, you sign up for 6 months. It's only $100 a month, so you save $25 a month, plus you get free probiotics every month with your order. That is definitely the way to go, and has great response for your family. There's also an opportunity when you place an order, if you have any deviations from normal in your health and you want to share those with Dr. McDaniel, they have a ton of reports on, people that have had great results from, their deviations from normal and their health changing after using New Eden, or the symptoms of that changing. So you can ask for some information about that. I would also recommend that you look at his some of his books. Um, Definitely the Gift, A Primal Provision, that talks about, like, really his heart of this and how it got started. And so check those things out. The link is in the description of this video. And I appreciate you, Dr. McDaniel. Thank you for
Well,
spending time with us.
I want to point out, with that automatic monthly order on your credit card, you get a 20% discount plus that free bottle of the friendly bacteria that there's worldwide research going on about the contributions that the proper bacteria in your gut, which is provided by this Meligrow, to support optimal health.
Absolutely. And that's the probiotic that we were talking about. So, well, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. Um, I look forward to seeing you after that and into the holidays. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next time here on The New Normal.
Thank you.